Oh, it was awesome. It was so nice to be outside, and the humidity was low, the temperatures were Good morning. If we can have your attention, for those of you who have been having conversations, if you could please close those conversations up. We'll get started here in just a moment. Consistent with the entire school year, we're going to do something different. We're going to go out of our comfort zone and do something that I hope I never have to do again. And it's the first time I've done this, but We're reporting here from Studio 415. We're doing this so that we can interact with all of you regardless of what building you're in. Our preference would be to be in the cafeteria enjoying some of the breakfast that our food service workers create for us each year. Before we begin and go any further though, in light of some of the recent events, let's take a moment to honor those who have endured racial injustice and those who have been innocent bystanders during the recent protest. If we could, just have a moment of silence. We'll have a moment later in today's meeting to discuss more of my personal journey in regard to race, but we'll do that closer to the end of the wrap-up. When I think of this past year, I simply think, wow, what a year. The week before we closed and the week after we closed was the longest decade of my life. And like many of you, I've not had a haircut since the last time we met. Before I go any further though, thank you. Thank you for all that you did to survive an unprecedented situation. Thank you for all that you did to make sure our kids had an adult checking in on them to ensure they were okay. Thank you for taking the time to look out after each other. On March 13th, when I announced that our schools would close, I fully intended to reopen them on April 13th, just 1 month later. However, it has been 80 days since I made that announcement, and it does not feel like 80 days. It feels much longer. Frequently, I hear many of us say something like, I can't believe how fast the school year is going, or I can't believe it is already Thanksgiving, or already Christmas, or already spring break. Something like it's the end of the year, and I can't believe how did the year go by so fast. I hear many of the things like that you say, and yes, I know I say those things too, because it's true. Every year seems to go faster than the year before, except this year. The beginning was flying by just like any other year, and then it stopped. It seemed like time stood still. I think it seemed like time was passing so slowly because deep down, we felt like something had been taken away from us, a part of us that makes us us. We miss seeing our kids each day, even the ones that know how to push our buttons and drive us a little nuts. We miss seeing our colleagues each day, even the ones that tell the same stories over and over, and we were even finding ourselves yearning to hear those stories again. Anything. We just needed something. Anything that felt normal. As educators, what we do is not a job. It's a way of life. And in a way, a piece of our life was taken away from us. Thankfully, we had Canvas Connect and Google Meet. Thankfully, we had Andy and Amy and Seth and others to teach us, to support us, and to help us figure out how to reinvent how we taught by using new tools and interacting with our kids in a new way. Still, it was not the same. It was better than nothing, but it was not the same. During our commencement last June, I stated, all of us have overcome something in life that others may or may not know about. Planning is a good way to stay organized, to remain focused on the goal that you want to achieve, to give us some remote sense of being in control. But sometimes life happens, plans must be readjusted, and we no longer feel like we are in control. I had absolutely no idea what a prophetic statement that would turn out to be. When I came across the statement a few days ago, it gave me some chills. Sometimes even a kid who grows up on a farm, attends a small rural high school, studies engineering, and teaches math can string a few words together. I have talked before about how life happens. And out of this, an understanding comes from a belief that test scores are not the end-all, be-all. Standardized test scores are not how we should measure our success or failure as a student, as a teacher, as a school, or as a district. Instead, we aspire to be more. We aspire to meet the needs of children and prepare them for whatever life throws at them. Because life does indeed happen, and it will continue to happen. What will next year bring? I don't know. I am working with many others to figure it out. I'm meeting with experts from our local hospitals and the Allen County Department of Health. I'm talking with other superintendents who I've gotten to know, who live throughout Indiana and throughout other states. I'm reading guidance documents from the CDC and others. I'm listening to you. I'm listening to our parents. I'm listening to our students, and I'm learning. I'm preparing so we can achieve our aspiration of meeting the needs of the children who we are blessed to serve and preparing them for whatever life throws at them. We want to reopen, but we will only do so if our local medical and public health experts can help us identify a path to do so safely and by implementing procedures that are both reasonable and practical. However, when we open, we should expect it to be different. Later today, a survey will be going out to our parents so we can better understand their concerns about reopening. I need to know their concerns. I need to know whether they are ready to send their kids back to our schools. I need to know what they fear. I need to know how we can alleviate their concerns and their fears so we can all start moving back towards a normal. I also need to know your concerns, your fears. Hopefully we will soon have a survey available for you to complete as well, so please remember to check your email box throughout this summer break. But more important than a survey that we can distribute, we need to hear directly from you. In your words, not the words on a survey. So I encourage each of you to communicate openly with your principal or assistant principal, with your department chair, with Gloria, Sam, with John, Bill, Kate, Kim, or me, with anyone who is trying to help us determine a path for reopening and learning and trying to figure out how we can coexist with COVID. We can't stay hunkered down forever. We need to take whatever life throws at us and figure out how to respond so we can do good to and for others. It is our calling. It is our purpose. Developing the talent and nurturing the creativity of each learner. That is our charge. Together we will develop a path forward. And no, we may not agree on every aspect of the path that we choose to walk down. We will encounter disagreements, but we must never lose sight of our purpose. We must stay true to serving those who we are blessed to serve, to do good to and for others. I cannot tell you if we will begin next August fully open, partially open and supplemented with remote learning, partially remote learning supplemented by being open partially, or continuing with full-time remote learning. What I can tell you is that we will eventually be fully open. We will eventually re-emerge and take on whatever life throws at us. Our lives will eventually become overly busy again. Normal will eventually reappear, and August arrives regardless of what open happens to look like. Regardless of how we are asked to engage kids, we will do so in a way that prepares our students for whatever is thrown at them. No matter what, we will continue to do good to and for others. In the mid-1880s, Leo Tolstoy wrote a short story titled The Three Questions. In the story, Tolstoy tells of a king who struggled to find the answers to all the questions he was asked. Ruling was hard, and then it came to him, an epiphany. He thought if he had the answers to 3 questions, he would never again fail at anything that he tried. He thought to himself, I simply need to know what is the best time to do each thing, who are the most important people, and what is the most important thing to do. He asked many trusted advisors his 3 questions. Each of them failed to provide answers that satisfied him. The answers seemed hollow, they seemed cliché, they seemed inadequate. So the king decided to journey to a nearby village and ask a hermit who was well known to be the wisest of them all. But the hermit did not like attention. He stayed out of the limelight. And to remain low-key, to remain somewhat anonymous, he would only see, meet, and work with common people. So the king disguised himself as a peasant and ordered his guards to stay behind. Upon arriving at the hermit's residence, the king found the hermit digging flower beds. The king was taken aback at how frail and weary the hermit was. He noticed the hermit was struggling to complete the work, and despite his observations, the king asked his questions. But the hermit ignored him, and though it was a struggle, he continued to dig. After a while, the king noticed strain and fatigue were overpowering the hermit and offered to assist by digging for him. After preparing the flower beds, the king again asked his 3 questions. But before the hermit could answer, a man bleeding from a terrible stomach wound emerged from the woods. The king tended to the wounded man and stayed the night in the hermit's hut to protect and care for both the wounded man and the frail and fatigued hermit. Within a few days, the wounded man's condition had improved immensely, and he admitted surprise that the king took the time to assist him. See, the wounded man knew that it was the king who had cared for him and protected him. He knew this because he had followed the king throughout his journey. He had followed the king because he intended to kill him. Despite the king's orders, and without the king's knowledge, the guards had also followed him. And it was the guards who wounded the man just as he began to sneak up on the king to kill not only the king, but possibly the fatigued and weary hermit as well. The king stayed with and cared for the wounded man and the fatigued hermit until each had regained their strength. After healing from his wound, the wounded man pledged his allegiance to the king and went on his way. The king then asked the hermit his 3 questions once again. The hermit responded by saying that the questions were already answered. You came upon a man overpowered by strain and fatigue, a man who needed help digging flower beds, and you responded. Then a wounded man in need of immediate medical attention came upon you, and you responded. Very simply and profoundly, the hermit reminds us, the best time to do each thing is now, because the present is the only time over which we have power. The most important people are the people you are with at that moment. And the most important thing to do is to do good to and for the people you are with. Like the world of the king, we do not always know when we are learning a lesson that will become valuable in the future. We do not know when we will encounter a person in need, like the hermit or the wounded man. Life simply happens. Sometimes it happens in an obvious way, and sometimes it happens so subtly we may not even notice that it happened at all. On March 13th, life happened in an obvious way. I announced that we would close our schools and implement remote learning. In early April, life happened again, as the governor ordered all Indiana schools closed through May 1st. A couple of weeks later, life happened again when the governor closed all Indiana schools for the remainder of the current academic year. Because a pandemic like this has not occurred since 1918, none of the books we have read prepared us for what we encountered this past year. None of the courses we have taken prepared us for it. Likewise, none of the casual conversations we had with our colleagues prepared us for it. Or did they? We were not trained for a life of taking tests. We are not paid to continuously pass tests and check items off of a list, although sometimes it might seem that way. Instead, we were trained and we are paid to meet the needs of children and help them develop their talents while nurturing their creativity. So after the announcement was made that we would close, we did not wait. We did not sit back and let others tell us what to do. We didn't wait for an epiphany to come out of nowhere. Instead, we lived in the now. We existed in the present. To help us, we reached back. We reached way back in our memories, and we remembered the many lessons and principles we learned from the books we read, the courses we took, the projects we completed, the learning activities we've created throughout our careers, the advice we were given by our colleagues and others, and the experiences that we had encountered along the way. And we developed a different way of meeting the needs of the children we were blessed to serve at that moment. And we did it. We did it well. We did it in a way that should make each of us proud. We knew we were serving children who needed to be fed. We knew we were serving children who needed to have someone check in on them. We knew we were serving children who needed to see us. We knew we were serving children who needed to see and interact with other children. And we did good to and for the people we were blessed to serve at that moment. We knew we were serving with colleagues who needed help. We knew we were serving with colleagues who needed someone to pick up groceries for them. We knew we were serving with colleagues who needed to be uplifted. We knew we were serving with colleagues who needed the comfort of a friend who cared. We knew we were serving with colleagues who needed someone to talk to and to help them realize things will get better. And we did it. We did good to and for the people we were blessed to serve with at that moment. What will next year look like? I don't know. But I do know that no matter what is thrown at us, we are prepared, and we will overcome it. Because all the experiences we have encountered throughout our lives have prepared us for whatever moment is yet to come. And it is incumbent on us to make sure that whatever we encounter next year, and every year, is for the good of each and every child we are blessed to serve, regardless of their race, their ethnicity, their gender, their sexual preference, their economic status, their religion, their creed, or their abilities and disabilities. Everyone, each child. In public schools, all means all. As I think about the events of the past couple of weeks, from the incident in the Central Park where a white woman called the police to intervene because a black man asked about her dog not being on a leash, or the brutal killing of a black man in Minneapolis, I thought about my journey. I grew up on a small farm community, or in a small farm community, in western Hendricks County. I grew up on a 15-acre corner lot that was surrounded by fields in all directions. My nearest neighbors were my grandparents, who lived about a half-mile away if I cut through the fields. I was responsible for taking care of nearly 1,000 hogs and about 500 cattle. We baled hay and straw. We grew and harvested wheat, soybeans, and corn. We grew most of our own food. In total, we farmed about 2,000 acres. Today, that is not a big farm. The corporate farms of today raise many more animals and farm many more acres than we did on our family farm. I mentioned the childhood in western Hendricks County to note, I did not have any regular interactions with people who were not white. My high school would have a few foreign exchange students who periodically would be from non-European nations. One black family moved into our district when I was in middle school, but none of their 4 kids were in my grade level, so the number of interactions I had with them were few. As I grew up, my interactions were limited to our treks to Lafayette Square Mall, Indiana Pacer games, visiting downtown Indianapolis, and the Indiana State Fair. Beyond those experiences, I really do not recall many interactions. However, I was assigned to student teach at Ben Davis High School. I helped out with the basketball team, I taught general math, algebra 2, and trigonometry, and I observed evidence of institutional racism. You see, my general math classes were almost entirely comprised of black students, while my algebra 2 and trigonometry classes were almost entirely comprised of white and Asian students. At the time, I didn't think much about it. Well, I was student teaching. I was trying to survive. And frankly, I didn't think of much of anything except the next day's lesson plan and grading. But I had a university supervisor who forced me to think about it. He challenged me to think through the issue. He challenged me to think beyond my world. He challenged me to think about whether it seemed right that nearly all the black students would be in one class and nearly all the white students would be in another. So my journey with learning about race truly began during that student teaching experience. Until I came to Northwest Allen County Schools, my experience had all been in urban environments with a significant number of students who were not white. And I found that I had lots to learn. I taught at Pike Township and Perry Township in Indianapolis. Pike Township has the 4th largest percentage of black students in the entire state. Like Ben Davis, black students who attended in Perry Township were nearly all from the northern community, which was the section of IPS that was bused to Perry Township as part of the desegregation order. It was the area between Interstate 70 and 30th Street, between Rural and Emerson Avenues. It is a part of town that is frequently mentioned in the news because of some random act of violence. And over the past few days, I started thinking about a few of them. Eric, Keenan, Antonian, Damon, Kenyatta, and many, many others. I also thought about the many conversations I had with Tiffany. Tiffany and I talked about race nearly every day. It was hard, it was uncomfortable, and it was necessary. She helped me understand what I said and did that could be misconstrued and considered offensive or possibly even racist. Things that I had no idea about. My normal upbringing did not match her normal upbringing. She helped me understand that it was not about right or wrong or normal. It was about different. I am very grateful for Tiffany. Without her, without those conversations, who knows if I would have survived my urban experiences or even adopted our children or been on a path to being as good of a person as I am capable of being. I became an administrator in Perry Township and then in Lafayette. In Lafayette, we had a mix of migrant students, predominantly from Mexico, and many transplants from the Gary area. All moved to Lafayette for jobs, all trying to find a better life for their family, all simply trying to do the best they could. In Lafayette, nearly 1,500 students, or more than 15%, had a native language different from English. Over 50 different native languages were represented. It was far more of a melting pot of different cultures and perspectives than any of my experiences in Indianapolis. It afforded me even more experiences to learn about diversity. I learned about migrant workers who experienced few, if any, educational experiences before moving to Lafayette. I learned about foreign students traveling to a major university to earn a degree. I learned about gangs. I learned about people from different races or ethnicities relocating to another state or country, simply trying to find work so they can make life better for their children. I learned about many different religions. I was challenged. I either experienced or discussed some aspect of diversity every single day. If you worked in Lafayette, you had no choice. Different income levels, different educational attainment levels, different races, different ethnicities, different languages, different special education needs. These experiences helped me navigate the beginnings of the Great Recession in Kokomo. I learned about the racial divide in Kokomo and how its roots dated back to the riots in the 60s and 70s. And in many ways, Kokomo was further along than many communities because of the riots they endured, which forced them to have very uncomfortable but necessary conversations so they could learn from each other. Everybody needs a Tiffany in their life to help them learn. So then I come to Northwest, and our diversity continues to grow. We are servicing more students from different religions and different income levels. We are serving more children of different races and different ethnicities. We are serving more LGBTQT students. We are serving more ELL students. We are serving more students who come from different backgrounds, who've encountered different experiences. And this makes us stronger. It creates opportunities for us to prepare our kids for a world that is diverse. Unlike the time when I grew up where technology and travel limited us to the regional areas that we lived, today's world is interconnected globally. Our kids must develop a greater understanding of race, ethnicities, religions, language, and many, many other levels of diversity, because their adult lives will require them to interact with a more and more diverse community. Because whether we like it or not, their community will be global, no matter how much some of us try to prevent that from occurring. So I commit to continue doing what we have always done. Focus on meeting the individual needs of each child, and to make sure that we are actually seeing each child. We will continue with the training trajectory that we had already started. We began with Dr. Desautel's and learning about social-emotional learning, which is really about understanding how the brain processes information and contextualizes it so we can deal with the emotions of life. We started this before COVID and had to come to redirect it because of COVID. We also had discussions before COVID and had already begun planning to build from those experiences with Dr. Desautel's to learn more about the diversity we are experiencing in our own community. We will continue with finalizing and implementing our plans. I will also continue my own journey, and I will make sure that I continue learning more about the diversity in our community. And I challenge each of you to commit to doing so as well. This summer, I will be rereading the Antoine Fisher story, the book Life Ain't Been No Crystal Staircase, and many others, along with learning more about the surface knowledge that are presented in Hollywood-based movies. I will dig deeper and learn more about Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson, and Katherine Goebbels Johnson, the women who worked for NASA and helped solve mathematical and engineering issues so John Glenn could successfully be launched into orbit. I will do this because it will help me be a better person. It will help me understand humanity even more. It will help me become a better leader for our schools. It will help me become a better father and help prepare my kids for the world that they will encounter. I will also create and work with a team of people to gain a more accurate understanding of what we do from an institutional perspective that could be artificially preventing kids from achieving all that they are capable of achieving. I will use this increased understanding to take a look at our policies and procedures and to identify those which need to be updated so we can maximize the learning of each child. To that end, we will work to eliminate the institutional racism inherent within our policies and procedures. Martin Luther King Jr. reminded us that darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Hopefully we find a way to provide the love our kids need so we can be one of their lights. So what will next year look like? I don't know. But I do know that no matter what is thrown at us, we are prepared and we will overcome it. Because all the experiences we've ever encountered throughout our lives have prepared us for whatever moment is yet to come. And we will do it by doing good to and for each and every child we are blessed to serve. Thank you for all that you did this year to create healthy and safe learning environments. Thank you for engaging each learner in meaningful learning activities. Thank you for supporting each learner and each other whenever learning or doing our job got tough. And thank you for challenging each learner we are blessed to serve to go further than they ever thought was possible. In the end, we prepared our students to become leading members of our community. And many, many years from now, there will be a crisis. And during the crisis, there will be children forever grateful that we played a role in preparing our current students to be the people leading our community. As the story I just shared taught us, our purpose is to be in the moment, helping those with us at the moment by doing good to and for others. And that's a perfect segue into honoring our kindness ambassadors. Thank you to Carrie Weishart, the RAKtivist, and all who engaged in random acts of kindness and modeled for our kids and others what doing good to and for others is all about. Let's take a moment to acknowledge our kindness ambassadors. Jennifer Colby from Arcola Elementary School, Jeremy Yates from the Carroll Freshman Center, Dan Ginder at Carroll High School, Laura Ohnberger from Carroll Middle School, Courtney Veith at Cedar Canyon Elementary, Wendy Meek at Eel River Elementary School, Tanya Chastain at Hickory Center, Brenda Weber at Huntertown, Holly Miller in the Science Department at Maple Creek. I have to say that because there's lots of Holly Millers in our district. Judy Barak at Oakview, Rebecca Fruth at Perry Hill, Jerry Wood in the Transportation Department, and from the district perspective, Leanne Kahneman and the NACS Food Service, the entire food service department. And a note about the food service department, in case you didn't see my email last week, since March 13th, they served more than 150,000 meals to our students who were most in need. We had to push waivers to qualify for that. That doesn't quite tell the whole story, because it was quite an ordeal for 2 weeks trying to get the waiver so that we could produce and deliver those meals. We also want to thank the transportation staff who made nearly 2,500 home deliveries with the help of a cross-section of other staff, from principals to custodians. We pulled together to do good to and for our kids and our community. Thank you to each of our kindness ambassadors. Thank you for what you did to support our kids and each other. So continuing with the idea of doing something different, it's been quite a year for our retirees, quite a year to go out on. And so we're doing something a little bit different. But before we get to that, in terms of years of service to NACS children, Malia Cruzy tops the list with 42 years. Closely followed by Diane Barton's 41 years of service. Everett Hornbarger served NACS children for 31 years, and Raleigh Clement served for 28. The group also includes Julie Strigel, who we must all meet and get to know if we want to get paid, and she served NACS for 28 years. Mary McComb assisted in the special needs classrooms at Carroll High School, and she served NACS for 27 years. Paulette Hambrock served many, many meals during her 25 years at Huntertown Elementary School. Loretta Romine in our district office for the past 20 years. Julianne Sefton served as the music teacher at Huntertown Elementary School for the past 16 years. Lynn Taylor retired mid-year after completing a maternity leave at Cedar Canyon and after serving nearly all 13 of her years of service with NACS while teaching third graders at Huntertown. And Butch Simon also retired mid-year after serving as a custodian at Carroll High School for the past 11 years. All told, these 11 individuals served NACS for a combined 282 years. The other unique aspect of this year's group of retirees is how many of them are graduates of Carroll High School. To each of our retirees, thank you for your service. Thank you for your commitment to serving children or helping behind the scenes to ensure that those working directly with children were supported and can concentrate on meeting the needs of the children. We are very grateful for your work, but enough of me. Let's sit back and hear from the most seasoned ones about their experiences at NACS and learn from them one more time.
I have taught with Northwest Allen County Schools for 41 and a half years, which doesn't seem possible because Zoom is just past. I have taught when I began at Arcola Elementary, Huntertown Elementary, Perry Hill Elementary, and currently Hickory Center Elementary for I don't even know how many years. And Oakview. I also traveled between Oakview and Hickory Center for some years.
Well, I went to school there from first grade through 8th grade was Huntertown. When I was a freshman, became Carroll. So that's where I got my start in life. My parents went there, my brothers. So that when I had the opportunity after my son was born, I took a year off. I had been at Perry Hill and had the opportunity to come back part-time to Huntertown. It was kind of bittersweet leaving Perry Hill because I had some dear friends there, but it was still a good move for me, and so to be back home.
I've been teaching for 42 years. This finishes my 42nd year. So I started in 1978, summer of 1978, and I was the assistant band director at Homestead, and I was the band director at Woodside, and did that for 4 years. Left Homestead and Woodside, went to Belmont, was there for 7 years, and I ended up doing the Belmont Junior High Band and the Belmont High School Band while I was there. And then Mr. Matthews left Carroll High School, and I heard about it, and so I interviewed and got the job, and have been here in this district ever since. So that would be 31 years.
I started teaching here in the fall of '92. I started coaching here in '89.
How many years teaching, period?
34 teaching total.
Well, I have been here for 28 years. Actually, that will be 28 years June 22nd, so not quite, but close enough. And I am the treasurer.
Oh, what will I miss most? Probably, it's going to be the relationships with the students, but also the camaraderie with the staff. I've eaten lunch with a bunch of guys who, I've probably eaten lunch with them for about 10 years now, and I'm going to miss that. They're a lot of fun, the 6th grade guys. So I'll definitely miss that. In relationship with Mrs. Cheshire, the choir director, and Mr. Basham, the principal, good people. And my young protege, Alex Bobozic. I'm gonna miss that.
I would say in my music career, just being with children in the classroom is the most important thing to me, because I'm allowed to connect with them as children and collaborate with them in making music. So I'm glad I had the power of music to do that, but really it's the connecting with children and taking them from where they are to a new place through that emotional connection of music.
Being with people and the gal, I'll get emotional, and that's terrible. When I first started teaching 44 years ago, I'm still good friends with the gal that mentored me there. So I think those relationships. That's that and the kids. I mean, that's what keeps you going. But it's the people. That's what it's all about.
Oh, the people. I mean, I've worked with a lot of really great people, for a lot of really great people. But the thing I'll miss the most are the kids. We're really blessed here at Carroll. We got good people, good kids, good families, good place to be.
Well, definitely the people. I mean, you can't say enough about the people here. I mean, it's just my second family, and I'm from this area, so I have deep roots, and I actually graduated from Carroll 45 years ago this month, so I definitely have some deep roots here, and I am biased, but for a good reason. So it is a great corporation to work for, so.
I think my best advice for my colleagues is to keep holding each other up and being flexible, caring about each other, taking the time to get to know each other and appreciate what each of us does in a school building to make an impact on children.
My biggest advice would be don't stress over the lessons, the standards, that live life. Share with each other, because when I think over the years at Huntertown, the celebrations we've had, the ups and downs, the sad times, it's the people. And even my own kids, I asked them, because they went through the system, and they were at Huntertown when I was there, so I'm thinking, okay, I wonder, what's your best memory? It had nothing to do with academics. And even for me, when I don't think, oh, that math lesson I did was really great. It's like the experiences that they have.
I just would tell everyone to just enjoy every day that they can work, because I feel like the last 3 months were basically, not normal for me. And I know that when I retire, like I graduated 45 years ago, that I won't see a lot of these faces ever again. And just to enjoy your job while you have it, because it goes so fast. And I really do miss that the last 3 months have not been normal, and I won't see people's faces again, some of them, so it's very sad.
Life's just going to throw you some curves, and you just got to deal with it and just go on, and there will be chances to perform as you go on, as long as you keep playing.
Well, the last year I left, when I was at Clinton Central, when I left down there, that was '78, so that was the year of the blizzard. So I figure I ended my years down there with a blizzard, so I'm ending my years in Huntertown with the pandemic. So, it's just life coming around, and the way it is.
There's a lot of wins and losses on the field and trophies and on the trophy case and all that, but the thing I'm probably most proud of is the 73 kids that have gone on to play in college, and we just signed 6 more of this graduating class that are going to go on and play this year.
I've just truly enjoyed the staff, the people that I work with, all the people I've met. I know a lot of the people from the area because, they grew up with my kids, and it's just been a true blessing to have worked here. It really has, so.
When I look back on 41 years of teaching music, it doesn't seem possible that it was 41 years. I feel a little physically that it was 41 years, but I think because I've been allowed to make music with children, that joy and that energy is still a part of me, and I love what I've done. I can't, there are always those little things that are the new waves in education that we all ride the tide on, but just being able to always have music there as the basis of what I do has been very, very special.
I just think thank you to everybody, because I wouldn't, you're as good as the people you surround yourself with. I've always felt that way. So thank you is what I would say.
And thank you to all of our retirees. It is, hopefully you learned from this. Hopefully that was a way for us to honor them, but admittedly it feels so inadequate that we're not together in the cafeteria, being able to truly give them our appreciation. Hopefully if they're in a group right now, that group is taking care of that for the rest of us. But we are very, very appreciative of all the work that they've done. The kids that they helped mold and prepare through the years, if they were here, I'm sure that they would say a simple thank you. And can you believe? As a point of reference, all I remember about the blizzard of '78 was that the drift was big enough for me to walk up onto the roof of our barn, and we missed a lot of school that year. I'm sure that we have kids who will just remember this year as just being, it was the year that we stayed at home and there was a pandemic. It definitely impacts different people in different ways, but thankfully you all did start in 1978 or whatever year that you did start, and our paths crossed and you worked with our kids. Thank you. Another part of this that's going to seem inadequate is what we do for our Teachers of the Year. We're going to go ahead and move into the Teachers of the Year, and we're going to do the best that we can. And again, hopefully we've got some small groups out there that are able to let them know how much we appreciate them. As Dr. McCormick announced earlier this spring, the work we completed since COVID closed our schools is worthy of the recognition of Teacher of the Year. And I agree with her sentiment on honoring all teachers throughout the state. Each of us may have completed the best work that we've ever completed, even though it may not feel like it was our best work. The work we completed was extraordinary. However, our Teacher of the Year for NACS is recognition that is not limited to what we did since March. It is based on the work that we did through the entire school year, and based on the inordinate number of Teacher of the Year out nominations. The work completed by many of you is worthy of earning the distinction of Teacher of the Year. The first person we will recognize today was nominated by a parent who began the nomination with the following quote, from Aristotle of all people: "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." The nomination went on to share how this individual is deserving of this distinction for a plethora of reasons, and elaborated upon 3 of those reasons: communication, teaching style, and rapport. Another parent who nominated this teacher says that she embodies exactly what a kindergarten mom who is dropping off her oldest child to school needs to be. She states that this teacher builds trust, disarms timid first-time students with the right amount of kindness, nurturing, creativity, encouragement, and patience, so that they help build independence, confidence, and the desire to do their personal best. This mother could not imagine a better first teacher for her daughter. Wendy Meek, thank you for building trust and helping our families believe in our schools while helping Eel River kindergarten students get off to a great start. Our second Teacher of the Year recipient was also nominated by parents who were nervous about dropping their daughter, their oldest daughter, off at school for the first time. One of the parents commented about how her child would wake up early on school days, and when asked why you woke up so early, he stated, "Because I cannot wait to go to the school to see what she has planned for us today." Another parent commented about the frequent communications that her child received, about the progress, hands-on learning activities, and the commitment to continually build trust and rapport. I will end the introduction of our next Teacher of the Year with a quote that was written by one of her students. "She's not just super nice, she's amazing." Linda Vernasco, thank you for what you do to build trust among our families and to help our Cedar Canyon kindergarten students get off to a great start. Our third Teacher of the Year recipient is described as a tireless worker, a problem solver, an innovator. Her enthusiasm, love, and passion for her students and the teaching profession is hard to rival based on the observations and perspective of the person who nominated her. According to the nomination, this teacher has mastered the elusive art of being firm but fair, having rules yet maintaining relationships, and keenly remembering that her impact goes far beyond the constraints of the school day. For those of us who have taught at the middle school level, we know that attaining this combination is not easy. While keeping up to date with the latest instructional strategies and technologies and volunteering whenever a volunteer is needed is a part of who this person is professionally, according to her the nomination, her true strength is in supporting her students in school or in after-school events and reaching a troubled or struggling student with simple motherly instincts and empathy. All these traits combined make Tammy Etter a total package when it comes to helping Maple Creek Middle School students find and achieve success. Miss Etter, thank you for what you do to help our kids achieve. And our high school Teacher of the Year is described by those who nominated her as a person who goes above and beyond to help her students and keep parents informed. She doesn't just answer questions, she provides detailed explanations. She values parent involvement. Most importantly, she made a huge impact on our son and helped him grow as a person. Her son stated the following about this teacher: "I cannot express in words how much she has helped me. When a person signs up for the class, he or she may think it's just another class. But when a student is in this teacher's class, it is a whole new world." Her class is comprised of life lessons mixed in with a little course content. I have become the best writer that I have ever been because of her. But I also have become the best person because of her. She challenged me to think outside the box, and she pushed me out of my comfort zone. I was not one to think outside the box, but she taught me to be more creative with my work. According to the parent who nominated her, she enables her students to look and focus on the positives in life. And as a result, our family has been blessed by her, and we will always appreciate the joy she brought to our son's life. Carrie Weishart, thank you for choosing joy and inspiring our students to do so as well. As we close up for this most unusual end of the year meeting, one that's pushed me out of my comfort zone as well, before we conclude the 1920 school year, please note the following. Just some reminders. Teachers, we do need grades turned in. We did extend that till June 5th for those of you who want to have more social distancing and spread this out so that you're not around as many people. We do need, for those of you who are teachers of seniors, to please do so as quickly as possible so that we can finalize diplomas, but all of you do have until June 5th if it's necessary. During the school year and as a part of integrating Aspen Meadow into our family, we engaged in a process to update our branding materials. This resulted in updating our logos and colors so that we are in compliance with copyright and trademark laws. A few of you have not been. To that end, we sought a donor, and we thank Barton Covillama for some swag. You should have a bag similar to this, filled with some things. We want to make sure that each of you pick those items up. If you find that there are missing ones or not enough in your buildings, to get one passed out to each person, we ask that you contact Lizette Downey, and she'll try to track it down so she can make sure that you get the packet of information. I also need to remind everybody that the resolution passed by the board to ensure that all employees were paid their board-approved hours despite the unknown effects of COVID expired on May 29th, last Friday. And unfortunately, recent guidance from the Federal Department of Labor has decided that these acts cannot continue in the future. Therefore, since the resolution expired, only hours worked will be recognized on future paychecks. For those who typically work summer hours to complete mandated reports or prepare for our next school year, please be aware that since the governor's orders are moving us back towards normal, our offices will reopen on June 15th. Between now and June 15th, principals are authorized to allow work that can be completed from home to continue to be done from home. But all hours, regardless of whether they are completed at home or on site, must be documented through K-Time. On June 15th, for those who normally work during the summer, we will return to completing our work on site and having our offices open. We also want to remind those who are on site that you will need to wear masks whenever you're greeting people or working in groups. However, when you're working with a properly social distanced, or when you're working alone or far away from someone else, you can take the mask off. I agree that it's uncomfortable. I also agree that it's necessary. What it does is if we happen to have COVID, we happen to be asymptomatic and not know that we can spread it, it helps us reduce the spread so that we reduce the chances of giving it to someone else. And I've noticed lots of people who take it off whenever they cough or sneeze. That's actually the perfect time to keep the mask on. The purpose of the mask is to reduce spreading the COVID virus out to others, and the best time to spread it, according to what I'm learning from doctors, is when you cough or sneeze. For those of you who listen to all that and you have no idea what K-Time is, then that part of the message was probably not applicable to you. Before we close off for the year, I also want to take some time to thank Lizette Downing and Bob Johnston for helping create this, this new way of doing an end-of-the-year meeting. They're the ones who met with our retirees and created the video. I also want to thank Jacob Newland, Daisy Macias, Gage Fisher, and Andy Newman for help putting today's production together. They're here with us, running the cameras and the soundboard and different things, and we thank you very much for coming in and using your time to help us out. As I stated earlier today, I don't know if our return in August will involve being fully reopened, having a mix of on-site and remote learning, or continuing with full remote learning. What we do know is that children are going back to school in Germany, Denmark, Austria, and several other places, and so we'll learn from them. We'll continue to meet with our doctors, local experts. We will also take advantage of the fact that Indianapolis starts school about 3 or 4 weeks before we do, and we'll learn from those and we'll make adjustments as necessary. When we have information to share and it becomes available and we're aware, we will send it to you. However, we need to be prepared for any of those situations, any of those different combinations. Many of you may be contacted to discuss the practicality of ideas that are being considered. As I wrote in my email to you last Friday, or 2 Fridays ago, I expect many changes in the guidelines currently being discussed. If we must adhere to 6 feet apart between all desks and on all buses, then it is physically not possible for us to be fully open. As summer progresses, I expect new information to become available, and this new information will likely change the guidance that was recently provided. Under the conditions we have lived under since March, it is simply too early to respond to what might happen 2 months from now. I can tell you with confidence that I will not agree to reopen fully unless our local medical and public health experts believe that we can do so safely. This past year, we experienced the most difficult professional year any of us has ever or will experience. For those early in your career, this past year proves that you have the ability to handle anything. When I was growing up, my grandma used to say, God does not put anything on your plate that you can't handle. There have been many times throughout life when I thought God was wrong. The past couple months has been one of those times. But like all the previous times, here it is June, and somehow we did it. We handled what was thrown at us. In March, April, and May, even though at times it did not feel like we were going to do so, we did it. I truly believe that between March 13th and May 22nd, we may have completed the best work we have ever completed. Thank you for your perseverance and your commitment to meeting the needs of the children we are blessed to serve. We will conclude our meeting with the senior video, and after the senior video, there is a short additional video that reminds us that there were also some good times this past year, that we did experience more than just COVID. Hopefully I will have a haircut by the time you see me next. Enjoy a great summer.
Senior year has meant the wrap-up of 4 years of really hard work.
Making memories.
It's the beginning and the end.
Don't wish these days away.
Become less, self-absorbed and be more engaged.
Don't be scared to fail.
But I've been so grateful for all the teachers that have worked so hard.
And I wish they knew how much we all appreciate them.
I have a newfound appreciation for all the mundane that was once being at school.
Just because we lost a month or two of school doesn't mean that we've lost the bonds we've created over the last 4 years.
Sometimes, bad things are a part of life.
We won't realize all the good things that are going to come.
We are blessed.
Unified.
Loving.
Persistent.
Determined.
Powerful.
Intentional.
Strong.
Resilient.
Optimistic.
Unprecedented.
1 in a million.
Phenomenal.
Change makers.
We are Chargers.
We are Carroll Strong.
We are the
class of 2020.
We are the class of 2020. We